Alright, so I'm going to be reviewing Witchblade Red Sonja. This is a comic I acquired. Actually, I found it among a pile of books. Like, I was just like, what is that? And I pulled it out. I was like, oh, I see this. I will take it home. So, Witchblade Red Sonja was a book that came out about, I think, 2006, 7-ish. So, I never read this book up until now. So, yeah, this was obviously a crossover between Image and Dynamite. And what is Witchblade Red Sonja? Well, you'd think it would be, like, the perfect comic to really, like, put two of the most badass female indie characters together. And it's written by Doug Wagner, who has been known to do some really great comics. It's kind of subpar, if I'm going to be honest with you. And there's a lot of good Witchblade and Red Sonja crossovers. And you'd think this would be perfect, right? But really, it feels like we're telling two different stories, because it's one of those, what's happening in the future, what's happening in the past, and the future. We're doing two separate stories. And when I mean that is, like, you have one story where Red Sonja teams up with a bearer of the Witchblade from the past named Nissa, and then you go to the future with Sarah Pizzini, who is fighting a villain that they fought in the past, named Ragiel, who is a fallen angel. Yeah, it feels like Doug Wagner had, like, a plot with the Red Sonja from the past, the Witchblade past, and then someone at Image went, hey, you gotta put Sarah in the comic, and Doug was just like, fine. I had this story all planned out, and by that I mean it was a simple story, because this is 5 issues, and it could have been told in 3. Yeah. So, the comic is actually drawn very well, and this does feel, like I said, 2 separate stories, but I will say that the artwork is very well done. It's got some gore to it. It feels like a Red Sonja story as much as it does a Witchblade story, but again, that's the thing, is that it doesn't feel like, it feels like it's doing 2 different stories, not just because of the time displacement, but also because, like, it really does feel like 2 separate stories. Also, Ragiel, he's a fucking dumb villain. He's just this fallen angel who just talks about, like, oh, darkness and whatnot, and yeah, he's really just there to be a villain for Sarah to kill, and also, he does some really creepy shit, like kidnap Sarah's daughter and be like, this will be my queen, she will be my... And he's saying this to minions he suddenly has out of nowhere, and he's like, look upon, your queen who I will marry. I'm like, dude, that's a baby. I feel like Chris Hansen was about to step out and be like, hi, Ragiel, I'm Chris Hansen. Would you like to take a seat? So you said you wanted the infant of Sarah Pizzini's infant daughter to be your queen, and you wanted, and this is actually from the comic too, is like, he actually talks about, like, wanting to bear children with her and make a new race of beings. And, like, could you just imagine that? It's like, you wanted to mate with her when she was of mating age to spawn a new race. Oh, that's taken out of context, what I meant. No, it seems like you knew what you were saying, so, yeah. Not looking good for you, Raggy. So, Ragiel's a dumb fucking villain. Like, it just feels like he is just there to be a antagonist, because it didn't feel like Wagner didn't really have a villain in mind. There is some, you do get, like, the cool thing of having Red Sonja with the Witchblade. That happens in, like, 1 issue. And that's really it, is that it all, all the stuff you want to see is all stuff that happens, in like, passing. Like, it's 1 issue that she gets the Witchblade. And honestly, it does feel like there was more, like, Doug Wagner wanted to write a Red Sonja book, because Red Sonja is really treated more as the heroine that Sarah is trying to be. So yeah, I do get that, like, Wagner definitely wanted to write more of Red Sonja than Witchblade. But yeah, and also, and as much as I love Sarah Pizzini as a character, I feel like you didn't have to do that. You didn't really have to write Sarah Pizzini in this book. You could have just done a medieval Witchblade story, or like, Hyborian age Witchblade. That could have easily worked too. But again, I feel like people at Image were like, no, we gotta have Sarah in here. Sarah's our Witchblade. You gotta have her in the book. And again, you could have done that with time travel and have the characters more interact with each other rather than have them deal with each other in separate times and feel like such a disjointed story. And again, the Witchblade stuff really just feels kind of tacked on. And everything just happens all at once in the last 2 issues. Like, it has, like, pacing, and then it's like, oh shit, we have 5 issues, better wrap this up. And sure enough, they do wrap that up pretty fast, too. It's almost like Ragiel wasn't even a credible threat as a villain. Anyway, so, it's not a good crossover, but I've read much worse. I have read much worse crossovers. If you are, like, a diehard fan of Red Sonja and or Witchblade, I would say give it a look. But really, just really, just kind of an book. But there you go, guys. If you guys have read Witchblade Red Sonja, let me know in the comments below. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.